You bastards, as also Vince. Wow, way off there. As Triple H would say in the 24 special for WrestleMania 32 from 2016, which of course that show was not that great. However, though, this show was just outstanding. Guys, what is going on? This is the Club of the Man 1993 here for the 10th retro review of my NXT TakeOver live retro review series as we talk about NXT TakeOver Dallas 2016. This was not only the first NXT TakeOver to take place the same weekend as WrestleMania, but it's also the first NXT TakeOver that I watched since I started watching NXT full time. Of course, again, I had seen a couple pay-per-views before this, but this is the first actual NXT TakeOver I had watched since I started watching NXT full time, which was right after Christmas 2015. And let me tell you something, guys. I watched for my first TakeOver, like knowing everything going on. Despite the fact that I was a little tired that night, do not judge me. I actually did fall asleep during my match of the night, not because I was bored. No way. No way, Jose. Just because I was tired. Pure and simple. But this show was outstanding. It's a show that completely blew WrestleMania 32 out of the water. Made WrestleMania 32 look like crap. For real. It made WrestleMania 32 look like garbage. As this show, just about everything on this show was like what it needed to be. We had Sami Zayn Swan Song, Shinsuke Nakamura's debut. Of course, we had Austin Aries' debut, which also ended up being Baron Corbin's last match. We had an amazing tag team match, an amazing women's championship match that ended just the way it was supposed to be. And also a pretty good main event as well, the second match between Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. But let's get into the show, guys. Again, it took place on April Fool's Joe, of course, 2016 at the Key Bayley Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas, Texas. Let's get rolling here. We open up with an amazing tag team match for the NXT tag titles. The Revival, Dash Wilder and Scott Dawes, which I believe this was the first pay-per-view they were actually known as the Revival. I can't remember if they were just Dash and Dawson before, or some reports have called them the Mechanics. But the Revival taking on a team of Jason Jordan and Chad Gable, American Alpha. And they put on an outstanding opener. A great tag team match to start off the show. I feel, even though, of course, they took the tag titles briefly off the Revival and gave them to American Alpha, this is where the Revival was starting to, gain their niche. And, giving them like another, tag title run, which, of course, started at the next TakeOver, was reasonable, I felt. I felt they still could, use a little more work for going to the main roster. In American Alpha, they're like a hot babyface tag team that was, definitely needed for the main roster because the brand split returned in the summer of 2016. But again, one of the hottest acts for sure. Two amazing athletes. We've spoken over how many times. Jason Jordan, Kurt Angle's illegitimate son, and who should have been his illegitimate son, Chad Gable, were just always just a fun team to watch together. Again, this continued to show the Revival being that great psychology team that, was able to outsmart their opponents, but in a way that made them look great and intelligent. Not the typical, heel work that most tag teams in the main roster would use just to cheat to win, and it gets boring after doing it how many times. Like these guys, when they cheated, you actually could respect that, they were talented. They were great at outsmarting people. They didn't bore you to death. And hats off for, to get the American Alpha as well. Just putting on an outstanding classic. Well, I shouldn't say classic, but it was an outstanding tag team match to open this legendary show, as I definitely say. One of the best takeovers of all time. But eventually, I think they did try to go for a Shatter Machine, but Chad Gable did, avoid it and whatnot. And eventually they were able to, tag in Gable, and I think they hit the Grand Amplitude on, I think it was Wilder, I believe it was, and Jordan had to keep Dawson away. And American Alpha are your new NXT Tag Team Champions. It's a great match again. The great athleticism, American Alpha was just one of the hottest acts, of course, one of the hottest babyface tag teams since Enzo and Cass were getting ready to move up to the main roster. But of course, American Alpha would join them a few months later they went to SmackDown, but of course they weren't really booked that well at all on the main roster. Very unfortunate. And of course, again, I would have actually loved to have seen a singles match between these two, like WrestleMania or something. Chad Gable and Jason Jordan, I'm sure, in a singles match with Jason Jordan probably being the heel would have been amazing. Unfortunately, Jason Jordan's probably not going to do back anytime soon, and he probably is done because of this neck injury. And Chad Gable reduced to absolutely nothing on SmackDown, and it's unfortunate because he could definitely be a huge star. Even, Simon Gotch of the Vaudevillains shared it in an interview. He said he believed that Chad Gable could be a Hall of Famer for sure. It booked right, yeah. AEW maybe. I'm pretty sure Chad Gable would thrive in AEW. But what do we know? But still a great opening tag team match to give American Alpha their brief run with the NXT tag titles. But still another great performance by the Revival. I think Dash Wilder even climbed underneath the ring to sneak around to be able to yank Jordan off the apron. But that was an amazing way to start off the show. Next is probably the weakest match on this card. It was this match with Baron Corbin taking on Austin Aries, which at the time, this was actually Baron Corbin's last match in NXT because he would debut on the main roster at WrestleMania 32 and win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Basically, the story here, though, was Baron Corbin wanted to be in the NXT title picture, and there was that triple threat match between him, Sami Zayn, and Samoa Joe. Well, there was a double submission put on Corbin. He tapped out. So because they would put it back in a rematch, because they still needed a number contender, which of course had like a mini feud with Sami Zayn and Samoa Joe. It's put some outstanding matches, I gotta say, especially that 2 out of 3 falls match they put on. Baron Corbin was not going to put in since he tapped out because he lost, which was true. So he told Real, you will regret this. So he came out and again, continue to be this guy who, just doesn't give a crap and he just beats down like these like indie guys and whatnot. So there's Austin Aries, he beat down him, set up for this match here. And it was an all right match. Again, this is kind of the weakest one on the card. Just kind of, Austin Aries is a smaller man, but a powerful looking man who I wonder if he didn't get injured and they didn't have the cruiser division. I wonder if they would have ever considered giving him a run of the NXT champion. Because, of course, we all know Austin Aries only had 2 matches on pay-per-view in NXT. He had, 3. He had this one, and the next TakeOver took on Nakamura. And then at TakeOver Brooklyn 2, he took on No Way Jose. Again, he was supposed to feud today with Tommy, but then he suffered that orbital bone injury, then got brought up to the main roster just to feud with Neville in the cruiser division, and had no plans for him after that, so that's when he left WWE, unfortunately. But anyways, not a bad match. Wasn't anything too amazing. It felt like kind of a match you'd see on, live TV. The match finished, though, whenever Aries countered Corbin's end of days was just a roll-up pin. I assume my finish with his finishers, either the discus 5-arm or his submission maneuver, the last chancery, which he used a lot after he turned heel in NXT, of course. Because obviously, Austin Aries came in at the same time with Nakamura, so 2 big names came at the same time. So obviously, one of them had to turn heel eventually, and of course, it was Austin Aries, which I felt Austin Aries as a heel was probably his best. But of course, you all know he got booked like crap on the main roster. Well, not booked like crap, but just booked in like a decent feud with Neville in the cruiserweight division. And afterwards, it's going to be nothing but a cruiserweight, and he did not want that. So he said, bye-bye, and he left WWE. But so, all right match, I gotta say. But again, probably the weakest match in the card was this match with him and Corbin. Next up, third match of the evening, and probably one of the match, like a top 3 match of the year candidates for sure for 2016. Shinsuke Nakamura taking on Sami Zayn. This is Sami Zayn's first match at a TakeOver event since NXT TakeOver Unstoppable, where he basically written off the show with the power bombs like Kevin Owens because, storytelling actually exists here. And Owens took full advantage of Sami Zayn's shoulder being injured after recently his his U.S. Open Challenge title match he had on the main roster against John Cena, which is a great match. Well, Owens and Zayn had great matches for sure with John Cena. But this is, of course, Sami came back like the week after TakeOver London, and again, he got involved in the mini feud with Samoa Joe for the NXT Championship. They put on some good matches, including the 2 out of 3 falls match they put on the 1 week, where, of course, Joe won that, became #1 contender once again. And, of course, obviously, what was next for Sami Zayn, most of the main roster. Of course, he did have a match for WrestleMania 32 where he was going to be in the 7-man Intercontinental Championship ladder match, kind of continue on his feud with him and Kevin Owens, as they did well. And, of course, after, that feud ended and Sami Zayn went to nothing. But, man, was this match amazing. It was one of those matches where it was a passing of the torch moment. Sami Zayn's farewell from NXT, Shinsuke Nakamura's debut. It was one of those matches where it's like, if you didn't know who Shinsuke Nakamura was, just his entrance alone within the first 3 minutes, bam. This is the guy who was just soaking in charisma and just put on, again, like that slow rise of what he is really made up of. It was one of those matches that just made Nakamura look like a god. Like there wasn't much build, but it was just, 2 of the best. Sami Zayn being the ultimate underdog from the underground, as they called him. Nakamura being the king of strong style, just come across as a Japanese god in this match. The pace of the match, the near falls, the submission attempts, the risks that these 2 guys took. Like they took that amazing story that, they didn't really, there was much of a story anyways, but they still just told that amazing thing of, of like showing how good these guys are. Sami Zayn still has it, after being out for 7 months or whatnot with his shoulder injury. Nakamura, of course, was going to be setting the bar really high for NXT. And of course, we all know he had a great run for the year he was in NXT, having matches against Sami Zayn or Austin Aries, Samoa Joe, which their matches were good. It could have been better, but they were still not bad. Bobby Roode. He also had a match that I remember watching. He right before TakeOver Brooklyn 2, when he won the NXT Championship for the first time, he wanted to prove himself and beat the icon of NXT, which was, of course, his good friend Finn Balor. But this match with Sami again just told that amazing story again. Just basically again setting the stage high for Nakamura as some type of a Japanese god that just was soaked in charisma that you just immediately got as soon as that entrance happened. And of course, Sami Zayn's putting on one of the best matches of his career as well in his swan song. And of course, Nakamura would end up winning the match with the Kinshasa knee strike, knee to the face. And after the match, Nakamura got down and showed a sign of respect for Sami Zayn, picked him up, they embraced. And of course, Nakamura left, and then Sami Zayn pretty much got a standing ovation, as this was obviously, again, his last match in NXT before moving up to the main roster full time and get his revenge on Kevin Owens. But just an amazing match. Again, one of the matches that, really makes me appreciate wrestling. A match that, again, was a match that, I didn't have much of a story coming into it, but it's basically a match that, if you didn't know who this guy was when he came in, like Nakamura was, then you found out in this match for sure. It was just amazing, passing the torch moment as NXT, of course, was getting prepared to move on to a new era for sure. But match of the night, top 3 for match of the year candidate for sure. Shinsuke Nakamura and Sami Zayn nearly went 20 minutes and just put on a classic. And it was great. It was absolutely glorious. Which, of course, I believe he was shown in the crowd. I think he was during the show. As this was before Bobby Roode made his NXT debut. Of course, again, his first match was not until TakeOver Brooklyn 2 against Andrade Cien Almas. But of course, we'll get to that in 2 pay-per-views for sure. But that was just amazing match. My match of the night. Next was the NXT Women's Championship match. Bayley taking on the undefeated Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. This, in my opinion, I like this match better than their second match they had at TakeOver Brooklyn 2. I thought the build for TakeOver Brooklyn 2 definitely was where it needed to be. The match itself was good, but not as good as this match. Bayley, had feuded with, had great matches with several, big stars. since she started becoming contention for the women's title, such as against Bayley. I mean, sorry, not against herself, against Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. Her matches with Sasha Banks, we all know, were classics, especially their match at TakeOver Brooklyn 1. Their Iron Woman match was amazing at TakeOver Respect. To, having feuds with different heels such as, Alexa Bliss, who, again, reminder, never had a TakeOver match, yet she has, 5 or 6 title reigns so far on the main roster. Alexa Bliss, she feuded with Eva Marie, and she also feuded with Nia Jax as well, as we saw TakeOver London. And she had a small feud also with her good friend Carmella as well, who won a Battle Royal, being number 1 contender. Of course, they had the match. Bayley won the match. And then it was set up for this match between Bayley and Asuka. Bayley, who set the example as what a true champion really is. Asuka, of course, had just been ran roughshod for the women's division since she signed around TakeOver Brooklyn 1, and of course she had her first match at TakeOver Respect against Dana Brooke. So she built herself up to be obviously the only person who was meant to contend at the time for the NXT Women's Championship. And obviously, Bayley looked like, once again, what about NXT compared to the main roster until recently, they had Bayley, looking like someone who, she was serious when it came to her tougher competition. And Asuka was that tough competition. Some hard-hitting strikes, stuff that you wouldn't think a girl like Bayley would be able to handle. But Bayley fought back several times, including getting a little more angry and a little more aggressive. I was showing a little bit a meaner side in this match. For sure, she knew she had to do whatever she had to do to protect that women's championship from being taken out. And of course, what they did do right. Also, they made her look like an ultimate badass by tapping out or getting pinned. Bayley passed out to the Asuka lock, showing as much heart as she possibly could. It's like that, that heartbreaking moment for the Bayley fans who just, want to see Bayley overcome another obstacle and even become even more dangerous of an NXT Women's Champion as she already was. But just to have, her fight, with all her heart, for Asuka to fire all her best shots, or whether it's her hard-hitting kicks or her submissions and whatnot, Bayley refused to quit. And she didn't tap out, but she passed out. But because of that, Asuka then became the NXT Women's Champion for the next 523 days, was never defeated at all in NXT. They moved to the main roster, they ruined her there, but of course, we're not going to talk about that now. An amazing match, a hidden gem still, I definitely got to say, as, once again, Bayley made, the best out of her opponent. It made them look dominating by just, her being, an ultimate underdog. And, Asuka was a new women's champion for 523 days. Of course, she would then feud with the likes of, Nia Jax. Oh, goodness, who else did she feud with? At Toronto, she had a match with Mickie James. She had, matches with the likes of, Nikki Cross, the Iconics, the iconic duo. Ruby Riott and Nikki Cross. Of course, her feud with Ember Moon, they had some pretty good matches, especially at TakeOver Brooklyn 3 next year. Of course, that was my women's match of the year for 2017. But again, still, great things we have to come. Even though, again, NXT is moving into a new generation, basically, Asuka was the right one to literally set that tone to continue. Again, one of the hottest commodities, in my opinion, NXT women's division, of course, was something that really, has drawn most of the attention, I gotta say. So it was still, be strong and move forward with Asuka now leading that division. Of course, we haven't seen the last of Bayley yet on TakeOvers, as her last match was at TakeOver Brooklyn 2. She wasn't at the next TakeOver. Of course, we'll talk about that next time. But Asuka is your new NXT Women's Champion. And finally, the main event was the second match between Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. Of course, first time, Finn Balor came with a goofy-looking hat on the Joker or whatnot as a demon. This time he came out with a freaking chainsaw that he, of course, used, but Dean Ambrose didn't use. He was given that by Terry Funk for his for his no-holds-barred street fight that Sunday at WrestleMania 32, which was a huge letdown, I gotta say. But great match again. Again, just just like the first match, they made Joe like a freaking monster. Well, first, towards the end of the match, Joe got decked in like the temple area, and he was bleeding a lot around his eye and whatnot throughout the match. Trainer Harris had happened a couple times, but Joe just kept like fighting, even though of course he was selling the idea of losing blood very well, showing signs of him getting weaker and weaker. He still came out looking like a dominating monster and just really tried to kick Finn's ass, basically. To my surprise, also, I didn't realize this. Well, Finn also almost passed out to a coquina clutch towards the end of the match. He also, towards the end of the match, to my surprise, I forgot about this, kicked out of a muscle buster. But obviously, Finn tried to go a little high, set the stakes a little higher. He did hit the coup de grace on Samoa Joe, but it looked like he wanted to hit for another move that he hasn't done for a long time. I say since NXT, his 1916 finisher, but Samoa Joe got out of that, was able to give him a coquina clutch on him. But then, similar to how AJ Styles beat Samoa Joe at Hell in a Cell, well, except the fact that the person didn't tap, crap. What was I saying now? Finn Balor then countering the coquina clutch to a roll-up victory, and Finn Balor retains the NXT Championship. Of course, the joke of getting checked on because of his bloody eye, but of course, we don't know what happens after this. Like a month or so later, at a live event in like Lowell, Massachusetts, Joe did dethrone Finn of the NXT Championship, set up for the rematch inside of a steel cage, the first ever steel cage match in NXT at the next TakeOver the End. And guys, with that being said, that is my live review of NXT TakeOver Dallas 2016. Again, just an amazing show. Again, a great show for me to watch for my first ever TakeOver as a full-time NXT fan. I give it an A+. Definitely one of at least top 3 of the greatest takeovers of all time, in my opinion. Just an outstanding show. I loved it from top to bottom. And of course, the only match was a little weak, but it was still not bad for what it was Corbin and Aries, but still just an amazing night. Especially, of course, my match of the night still was that match with Nakamura and Zayn. Just an incredible passing the torch, swan song match. And, even though those two are been booked like crap on the main roster, you can always look back at this match and appreciate how good those guys are. So, guys, A+ for TakeOver Dallas. What are your thoughts on TakeOver Dallas? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. If there's always slap a like on my video and subscribe or comment on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Demand93. Also, check out my first WrestleMania experience documentary found in the description box down below. Next time, of course, we'll be live for the 11th NXT TakeOver, which is called NXT TakeOver The End, which is not one of my favorite takeovers. It's probably my least or one of my least favorite takeover shows. And, some people rank this probably the worst takeover yet. Still good, but still was not too strong of a takeover. But that is it, guys. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Have a great rest of your night. And peace out, everybody.